Good evening, Sierra Leone. Good evening, Kono District. Good evening to all Sierra Leoneans in the diaspora and back home in Sierra Leone. This is David Bongbo coming to you from Kono News Network. And tonight we want to look at the disadvantages of proportional representation in Sierra Leone. Tonight we are not discussing merely an electoral formula. We are discussing who represents the people, who is accountable to the people, and how democracy itself should work in our country. Proportional representation was introduced into Sierra Leone's electoral process with arguments about inclusion, fairness, and broader political representation. But every electoral system must ultimately answer one fundamental question. Does it bring the elected representative closer to the voter, or does it place the political party between the voter and the representatives? Under the district block proportional representation system, the entire district becomes a multi-member electoral block rather than a collection of single-member constituencies. The Electoral Commission explained that seats are allocated according to a party's share of the vote in the district, subject to the applicable thresholds. So tonight, let us ask the uncomfortable questions. Who does an MP really represent under PR? The individual voter, the district, or the political party? What happens to independent candidates? Does PR represent democracy, or does it strengthen political parties? And after the Supreme Court declares the system constitutionally lawful, what lessons should Sierra Leone draw before the next elections? This is not about defending APC. It is not about defending SLPP. It is about defending the Sierra Leone voters. Party power can become too strong. That will be my first point to discuss. One of the biggest concerns about PR is that it can increase the influence of political parties over elected representatives. Under the district block system, seats are distributed according to the proportion of votes obtained by parties in a district. That creates an important democratic question. Does the MP owe his or her primary loyalty to the people who voted, or to the political party through which the seat was obtained? In a constituency system, an MP has a clearly identifiable geographical constituency. Citizens can say, "This is our MP." They know where the constituency office is. They know who their representative is. They can organize meetings and demand answers. With a large district block, accountability can become more diffused. My second point, weaker direct representation. This is perhaps the strongest argument against PR in Sierra Leone. A district can contain many communities with completely different problems. For example, the concerns of Kwedu City, remote mining communities, farming communities, border communities, urban youth, women, people with disabilities may be completely different. If the entire district becomes one electoral block, the question becomes, who is responsible for solving the problems of one particular community? A constituency MP can be directly challenged. What have you done for this community? People may ask. Under a large multi-member arrangements, responsibility may become less clear. My third point, the danger of political party domination. PR can make political parties extremely powerful gatekeepers. If political parties determine who gets a place on their candidate list, politicians may become more concerned about maintaining favor with political or party leaders. That can potentially weaken independent political thinking. An MP might think, if I disagree publicly with my party leadership, will I receive party support again? That is a serious democratic question to be asked. Parliament should not become a place where representatives simply follow party instructions. MPs must sometimes have the courage to tell their own parties when government policy is wrong. My fourth point, independent candidates can face a disadvantage. The PR structure can make it considerably more difficult for independent candidates to compete against established political parties. Political parties possesses national structures, financial resources, campaign machinery, recognizable symbols, polling agents, established voter networks. An independent candidate may have the personality, credibility, and community support, but lack the machinery. Civil society groups raised concerns that PR could give political parties disproportionate power and affect opportunities for independent candidates. That should be part of Sierra Leone's national conversation. My fifth point, the voter may lose a simple line of accountability. Under first past the post, the relationship is relatively straightforward. Voter to constituency and then to MP. The voter knows who won and who lost. Under a proportional representation system, the relationship becomes more complicated. Voter, then district block, then party or independent performance, then seat allocation, and then representatives. For ordinary voters, especially in rural communities, this can make the electoral system harder to understand. Democracy should not only be mathematically proportional, it must also be understandable to ordinary citizens. My sixth point, district-wide politics can marginalize smaller communities. There is another concern that deserves attention. A politically powerful town or population center within a district could dominate political campaigns. Candidates may concentrate their resources where the largest number of voters are located. Smaller communities could consequently feel neglected. This is why Sierra Leone must ask, does proportional representation actually represent or guarantee geographical lines or fairness within the district? Because proportional representation can produce proportional political representation without necessarily guaranteeing equal attention to every community. My seventh point, it can encourage political polarization. PR is sometimes presented as a mechanism for inclusion, but if political competition remains heavily party-based, it can also reinforce partisan identities. Instead of asking who is the best person to represent us, voters may increasingly ask which party will win the largest share of seats. That can make elections more about party strength than individual competence. My 8th point, PR does not automatically produce better governance. This is an important distinction. An electoral system can produce a parliament that is mathematically representative without producing a parliament that is effective. Representation is only the beginning. We must also ask these questions. Are MPs competent? Do they scrutinize government expenditure? Do they challenge corruption? Do they represent marginalized citizens? Do they attend parliament? Do they communicate with their constituents? Do they defend the Constitution? The quality of democracy cannot be measured by the electoral formula alone. So, let's look at the impact of the Supreme Court decision. The Supreme Court's decision in January 27, 2023 decision is central to this debate. The court rejected the challenge to the use of district block PR and held that the constitutional conditions for using the system had been satisfied. This has an important consequence. The political argument and the legal argument are different. The Supreme Court essentially answered, is this system constitutionally permissible under the circumstances? It did not necessarily answer the broader political question, which says, is PR the best electoral system for Sierra Leone? That distinction is extremely very important. A system can be constitutional without being perfect. A system can be legal without being the best policy choice. And a Supreme Court judgment should not end democratic debate. It should establish the legal framework within which democratic debate must continue. So, what does the Supreme Court decision mean for Sierra Leone's political future? The decision strengthens the legal authority of district block PR under the circumstances considered by the court. But it also places an enormous responsibility on political leaders, Parliament, ECSL, civil society, and the citizens. They must determine whether the electoral system should remain the same, be modified, or returned to another model. Interestingly, the Electoral Commission's more recent reform discussions have included a recommendation for national dialogue on the choice between district proportional representation and first past the post for parliament and local councils. That is exactly the conversation Sierra Leone needs. So what's the way forward? We should hold national dialogue. Do not allow the electoral system to become an APC versus SLPP argument. Bring together the following: political parties, ECSL, parliament, civil society, traditional leaders, women's groups, youth groups, persons with disabilities, academics, lawyers, independent candidates, and media organizations, among the few. The question should be this: what electoral system best serves Sierra Leone? Now, let's compare PR with first past the post objectively. Sierra Leone should conduct an evidence-based assessment. Compare PR versus first past the post on the following values: accountability, representation, inclusion, women and youth participation, independent candidates, party dominance, cost, voter understanding, geographic representation, and political stability. These are some of the most important things that we should really consider. So, strengthen constituency accountability. If PR remains, Sierra Leone should develop mechanisms that make MPs directly accountable to identifiable communities. Citizens should know the following: who represents us? Where can we find them? How can we complain? What did they promise? And what have they delivered? Protect independent political participation as well. Electoral reforms should ensure that independent candidates are not effectively excluded simply because they do not have party machinery. Democracy becomes weaker when political parties become the only realistic pathway to parliament. So let's make the rules clear before the elections. One of the biggest lessons from the PR controversy is that electoral rules must be settled early. There should be no confusion among president, parliament, ECSL, political parties, candidates, voters, and civil society. Electoral rules must not become a political surprise. Build public trust. The electoral system must be accepted as legitimate not only by the winners but also by the losers. Because democracy does not survive merely because elections are held. Democracy survives when citizens believe the rules are fair. I will close with these questions. Does PR make MPs more accountable to political parties than to voters? Should Sierra Leone return to first past the post for parliamentary elections? Is proportional representation more democratic or simply more proportional? Does PR weaken the relationship between MPs and their constituencies? Are independent candidates genuinely competing on a level playing field? Should political parties have so much influence over one or over who enters parliament? What lessons did Sierra Leone learn from the 2023 PR experience? Should the Supreme Court's decision end the debate, or should Parliament and citizens continue discussing the policy merits? Should Sierra Leone conduct a national referendum or broad national constitutional consultation before permanently choosing an electoral system? I'll go over that again. Should Sierra Leone conduct a national referendum or broad national consultation before permanently choosing an electoral system? And finally, which system gives the ordinary Sierra Leonean voter the strongest voice? In closing, let us be very, very clear tonight. The Supreme Court will be speaking on the legality of the proportional representation system, but the people of Sierra Leone must continue to speak about the quality of the democracy they want. A court determines what the Constitution permits. Parliament can make laws, ECSL can conduct elections, but ultimately democracy belongs to the people. We should not choose an electoral system because it benefits APC. We should not choose it because it benefits SLPP. We should not reject it because it hurts one political party, nor embrace it because it helps another. The question must be bigger than political parties. Does this system give Sierra Leoneans the strongest voice, the clearest representation, and the greatest ability to hold their elected leaders accountable? If the answer is yes, improve it. If the answer is no, reform it. And if the nation remains divided, let us sit around one table and find a national consensus. Because elections are not merely about conducting or counting votes, they are about counting every citizen. And the ultimate test of any electoral system is not how complicated its mathematics is, but how faithfully it converts the voice of the Sierra Leonean people into accountable leadership. Sierra Leone does not simply need elections. Sierra Leone needs elections that the people trust. And that is where I would end this broadcast. I want to thank you for listening, and I encourage you all to like, to share, and to comment. And if there's anything that I have said here this evening that does not resonate with you, or that resonates with you, please let me get your feelings in the comment section. I want to thank you all, and this is David Bongbo again.